By the summer of 1919, racial tensions in Chicago reached a boiling point.
A young man called Eugene Williams at a Southside beach accidentally floats across an imaginary line into white water. White people stone his makeshift raft until he falls off and ultimately drowns. Now, black people immediately go to the police officer on duty and say, "Aren't you gonna do something?" The white police officer ignores him.
And eventually what winds up happening is that the police officer arrests a couple of the African Americans who are demanding that charges be brought and leaves the white man to leave the scene.
Black people get enraged and begin to protest until skirmishes ensue.
And at that point, people begin to mill around the city and spread stories of what it is that happened. And these were not just whites who were milling around in kind of unorganized mobs. These were whites that belonged to groups called athletic clubs that were auxiliaries attached to the Democratic Party, the Sparklers, Reagan's Colts, the Hamburg Club. They decide now's the time to settle the scores that go back to the election. Now's the time to kind of go back and sort of establish the order here. The next day, it's something of a killing field. In the middle of the day, people are pulled off of streetcars, beaten, and in some cases chased into alleys and then beaten to death or shot or stabbed.
The black neighborhood in Chicago is effectively under siege for 3 solid days. We can't get food in there. We can't get medicine in there. People can't go to work. People are terrified. And if we think about migrants who thought they had left that particular and familiar kind of violence behind,
The police offered little protection. Some officers simply watched the violence unfold without intervening. The black residents of Chicago didn't merely stand by and watch while white men ransacked their neighborhoods.
When white people attack, black people fight back.
World War I vets go to the rooftops with their service revolvers and other weapons to defend the largely African American community on the South Side at that moment. Perimeters are established.
And so you have this multi-day period of white attack and black resistance.
Chicago wasn't the only city that saw this rise in black resistance during the so-called Red Summer of 1919. All across the country, black people stood up to racist violence, defending the neighborhoods that they had created for themselves.
They were spaces of black possibility and black sociability, so that when the violence came, black people already had values of self-worth, of wholeness, so that they knew that this white aggression required a response.
It was as if the act of migrating north had given them a newfound confidence, a new sense of race pride.
The fact that African Americans fought back, the fact that they sought to tell the story from their point of view, really fed the idea that there was a different consciousness among black people.